Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. Today I'm here to interview a designer, the designer of 23 Knives, which was recently successful on Kickstarter, where the fate of Caesar is in your hands. So welcome to Tyler. Please introduce yourself and your game.
Hi, I'm Tyler. Thank you for having me. So the game that I designed that funded on Kickstarter is 23 Knives. It is a game of social manipulation that takes place in 44 BCE, where players are citizens of Rome trying to either kill or save Caesar. And you do that by trying to get 23 or more knives into the Curia if you want to kill him, and fewer than 23 if you want to save him. There's a third role, but we'll leave that for people to figure out. And so throughout the game, you can be swayed one way or the other whether or not you want to kill or save him. So you can start the game by wanting to save Caesar, but throughout the game other players might play sway cards on you and talk you into wanting to kill him. So you could be saving him for half the game and then have to change your mind at the last minute and want to try and kill him.
Swaying others to stab or not to stab Caesar, it feels like the theme is a real core part of the game. Did that come through the design process, and was this always the theme?
The theme was the very first thing that I thought of. So before any part of the design, I decided that I wanted to make this game and this theme. And that's pretty much the way I approach every single design. I knew I wanted the game to be called 23 Knives, and I knew I wanted to use that 23 knives, fewer or more, to kill or save Caesar. I proof rock. To kill or save Caesar as the main idea of the game. I was kind of working against sort of the idea of social deduction games where you get a roll and that's who you are. So you could be disappointed. I wanted it to be you get a roll and you can change yourself. You can try and be something other than the role you're given. So give the players a little bit more agency, a little bit more control.
That control that players have in part comes from the locations on the board, which each offer a unique action. How did you go about balancing them?
They kind of balanced themselves. They were all... I started the design with, I probably had 10 or 12 different locations that I tried out and just slowly whittled them down to what was absolutely necessary for the game to work. Trying to get rid of any of the superfluous stuff. Like the gardens and the baths are the two locations where you get more cards. You need those cards throughout the game, so those balance themselves. The Tiber River was a way to get cards instead of drawing from the top of the deck and hoping for something. The Tiber River allowed you to get something specific. The Temple, which was the main idea of the game, wanting to change your own allegiance. So that's where you can go to do that, at the temple. So the temple is probably the one that was the hardest. Not the hardest, it was the best one. The one that was the most necessary. And then the forum took a lot of work trying to get the players to be able to deduce as well as work towards killing or saving Caesar. So the forum I think was the hardest, but eventually, after hundreds of playtests, just working it over and over and over again, it kind of evened out and resolved itself, balanced itself, I guess.
Playtest, playtest, playtest. That sounds like great advice to hone in a design and find out what isn't needed. So great advice to people that are maybe doing their own game. And, well, you've now been part of a successful Kickstarter campaign. What does that feel like?
Feels a bit surreal. So throughout the whole Kickstarter campaign, just a lot of constant refreshing and panic and nervousness, lots of anxiety. But now that it's over and it funded, I am happy to have all that time back and all that space back in my brain. But it's a real joy to see over 700 people want to play your game. So I'm very grateful for that, very excited about that. Yeah.
I'm glad that anxiety, that often refreshing, is in the past for you now, as it's going to now be a, well, successfully crowdfunded and published game. What advice would you give to first-time board game designers?
I mean, kind of figure out what you want to do and don't sway from that. Like, I wanted the game to be what I wanted the game to be, and so through playtests, I tried to take in the feedback that I got, but primarily I kept in mind what I wanted it to be. It's kind of, I don't know. Again, this is a really tough question, but I wanted to stand strong in what I wanted to make. So there's lots of games out there that have very similar things, and a lot of development goes into those. But a lot of the time, they can tend to seem a little empty, where somebody just threw a theme onto the game. So since I'm such a thematic designer, I focused on the theme, and I wanted to keep the theme there. So anytime I got feedback about the game, I tried to take that feedback and be like, okay, how can I use that in the game and also keep the theme as strong as it is? So that's the one thing. It's just kind of have your foundation and then try and stay there. I think that helps, and that's kind of against some design ideas, but I don't know.
That's great advice. At the end of the day, you want your game to be your game. You don't want it to be like a mishmash of other people's ideas. So that does make sense. Do you have any fond memories from when you were playtesting 23 Knives?
Out of hundreds of playtests, it's a bit tough to nail down one. But the first one that sticks in my mind is, again, thematic game, thematic designer. We were playing with my friends in Ohio at a cabin con, and we were in this firehouse, which is basically the convention takes place at this campground. And on this campground, there's this little firehouse, is what they call it. I don't know if it's still functional in any way, but it's a little red building, and there's one table in the center, and we were playing in there, and at one point, somebody was reading one of the flavor texts, because the game has a lot of flavor text. And the moment that they read the flavor text and realized how it connected to the game, and everybody sort of just kind of like went, oh, at the same time. So seeing the theme come out and excite the players and make them like realize how the theme is connected, that was really satisfying.
As you say, you're a thematic game designer, so I bet that felt really good when that just sort of twigged for people. Now, where can people go to actually find out more about the game?
I think you can still back it on Kickstarter. It's late backing, so if you just type in 23 Knives on Kickstarter, you can find it. The publisher, Play2Z, has a website where they have a little bit more information. So that's just play2zgames.com. And then Board Game Geek, obviously that's where games kind of get found. So if you look it up, visit the site, you can give it a little like, and you can rate it if you have played it. There's a tabletop simulator module available if you find the Kickstarter page. You can test it out, read the rule book. Yeah.
Links will be in the description box downstairs, so you don't have to go and hunt for those. And now for a fun one, what game would you say has the best component in it?
So, not necessarily one game, but Whirligig Games, Cole and Drew Worley, brothers that have their own publishing company, do games like PAX Premier, John Company, these sorts of things. They make their games it seems like they make their games from both a design as well as aesthetic properties. So the little resin figures from PAX Premier that act as roads and armies, those little things, they just feel like they fit in that game. All their games are just so well produced that it amazes me every time I open up one of their new games. They just put so much work into the aesthetics of the game. So I'd say pretty much anything by Whirligig Games.
That's a really cool answer. I always like the unique things that people say for that question. It's a fun one to end on. And well, that wraps up today. I just want to say thank you to Tyler for coming on and answering the questions.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to Tyler's wife for the behind the camera work as well. As I mentioned, the links will be in the description box downstairs, so go and check those out, find out more about 23 Knives and even more. Subscribe while you're going down there to the channel so you can, well, hear from other designers when I interview them, news, reviews and all that sort of stuff. And until next time, well, I hope your fate is better than Caesar's. Have a great day gaming, people.